In this video, we will take a look at solving linear inequalities using worded problems. Now, let's take a look at our first example. Jordan has $500 in a savings account at the beginning of the summer. He wanted to have at least $200 at the end of the summer. He withdraws $25 per week for food, clothing, and movie tickets. How many weeks can Jordan withdraw money from his account? Now, let's identify a few things. Now, we know that Jordan has $500 at the start of the summer. He wants to spend no more than $300, as he wants to have at least $200 left in his account. So, whatever the amount is that is left, it should be equal to or greater than $200. And he wants to spend $25 per week on food, clothing, and movie tickets. So we will call that 25W. Now let's make an equation from these three factors. So we will have $500 at the beginning of the summer. He'll be spending each week $25, so we will subtract $25 times W, but this should be greater than or equal to 200. So this expression here of $500 minus 25W should be greater than or equal to 200. And now we can go ahead and solve for W, and that will tell us the number of weeks he will be able to spend money for. And so we can go ahead and say negative 25W, because we need to have the W on one side by itself. So we will subtract 500 from each side. So this becomes negative 25W is greater than or equal to 200 minus 500. Now, this becomes negative 25W is greater than or equal to negative 300. We can then go ahead and divide each side by negative 25. And so our W would then become less than or equal to 12. Notice that our signs flipped when we divided both sides by the negative 25. So this indicates for variable W, whenever we switch from a negative to a positive or positive to a negative, our signs will flip. So the answer is then W is less than or equal to 12, which means he will be able to spend $25 per week for up to 12 weeks. And that would be our answer for this problem. Now let's move on to our next problem. A taxi charges a flat rate of $1.75 plus an additional 65 cents per mile. If Lisa had at most $10 to spend on the cab ride, how far could she travel? Now, let's analyze our problem. Now, our taxi charges $1.75, right? So we'll have $1.75 plus an additional 0.65 or 65 cents per mile. Lisa has at start $10, so that would be her budget. And we're asked how far could she travel, which means how many miles could she travel, so we'll call that M. Now that we found we've analyzed our problem, let's go ahead and try to solve. Now, the taxi charges $1.75, so that will be $1.75. An additional 65 cents per mile, so that will be plus 0.65 M. If Lisa had at most $10 to spend on the cab ride, how far could she travel? So she should be spending $10 or less, which means $10 should be greater than or equal to 1.75 plus 0.65 M. And now we can go ahead and solve for m. So we can subtract 175 from each side. And so this becomes 0.65m is less than or equal to 8.25. And now that we found that, to find m, we would divide each side by 0.65. And so m would be less than or equal to 12.69. And so our final answer for the number of miles traveled will be 12.69. Sam wants to order DVDs over the internet. Each DVD costs $15.99, and the shipping of the entire order costs $9.99. If he can spend no more than $100, how many DVDs could he buy? Now let's identify a few factors here. Now, Sam wants to order DVDs over the internet, and each DVD costs $15.99, which means one of our variables will be $15.99 D, right? As we're being asked how many DVDs he can buy. Now, the shipping of the entire order will be $9.99. So that would be for shipping. And he can spend no more than $100, which means after his order, he should have not exceeded $100. And we're being asked how many DVDs could he buy. And so we'll have 15.99 D, which is the number of DVDs, plus $9.99, which is the shipping cost, should be less than or equal to 100. Now that we've done this, let's solve for D. So first, we will subtract $9.99 from both sides. These two would cancel. And so we are left with 15.99D is less than or equal to $90.01. And now to solve for D, we just simply divide both sides by 15.99. And our final answer should be 90.01 divided by 15.99. Now these two cancel, and so for our equation here, D should be less than or equal to 5.63. Now, we're not able to buy a fraction of a DVD, which is this part, so we will just simply remove this. And so our final answer for the number of DVDs we can buy will be D is less than or equal to 5. Peter practices his violin for at least 12 hours per week. He practices for 3/4 of an hour each session. If Peter has already practiced 3 hours this week, how many more sessions remain for him to meet or exceed his goal? So let's write this in a equation format. And so we know that 3/4 S plus 3 is greater than or equal to 12. Now we need to solve for S. We can subtract 3 from both sides, and this becomes 3/4 and S. These two would cancel, and this becomes 9. We can multiply each side by 4, and so these two would cancel, so we're left with 3S is greater than or equal to 36. We divide both sides by 3, and we find that S is greater than or equal to 12, which means he practices for at least 12 sessions. that would be it for our video today, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. If you liked the video and you learned something today, please comment down below and leave a like on the video.